We're back. Phone call is over. Part 2. Step up, step back. So, as I said, there was the first part where I was describing exactly what it means to be privileged. There was the next part where I went into the step up after some sort of intermediary. There was the next part when I started to change up from the pretty privileged cadence to being like, hey, step back. And in that were the first part of that step back where I was getting that insinuating like, hey, I'm a part of the not so privileged because we're all stepping back. After I made like, hey, oh, you thought I was talking about me? I disassociated. No, I'm talking about my mom the same way your parents probably, if they were not terrible parents anyway. If your parents were good parents, you're privileged because your parents, being good parents, suffered in order to make sure that you had that privilege afforded to you, right? So I'm like you, I'm privileged myself, and I do acknowledge that. But we all have to temper ourselves when we're talking about privilege rather than just explicitly pointing fingers like I was this entire song. Like, pretty privileged. From here it's looking pretty privileged. From there it's looking pretty privileged. I'm looking pretty privileged. And then I did it again. I said, go ahead, step back. Because in that, also for the second part, I was trying to go into this depth of like, hey, I gotta get ready to start dialing it back a little bit. Like, I identified that this divide is grande. It's Grand Canyon if there ever was one. And now we gotta start bridging it. But the very last thing I did, which was a majority of that second time when I was like, step back, was like, there was this particular stick out verse that I kind of compacted on and extended off for a good like 3-4 lines. Was like this black culture of what it means to be a hustler, right? So I said like, step back, if this and that, step back. And those were all those step backs were like talking about the hustle and grind for that second time. It's like, step back if you actually know what it means to hustle. Step back if you never would have survived if you weren't on your grind. Step back. So in that third, like, post that, it was more so also an expository, like, hey, because I wanted to set up the fact that when I started going back to the pretty privileged scheme, that, hey, if you never had to hustle and pull your weight, pull some muscle, you would never understand, off my screen, you would never understand the dichotomies between white folk and the black folk conversations, because you're looking pretty privileged because you never had to do these things. You never had to get off my screen. Because you never had to do any of these super major suffering things. It's like, it's pretty privileged how you could stay up to date with the laws and everything. It's pretty privileged how you're educated enough to try to teach me what is right and wrong when I'm trying to feed my family. It's pretty privileged how everyone around me's starving because we don't understand the law when your stomachs are full and bulging, right? That whole greed and consumption conversation as well. You looking pretty privileged how you talk about someone else's more privileged than you, being able to talk about male privilege, white privilege, this privilege, that privilege. Meanwhile, I have to do crimes in order to get by. It's you looking pretty privileged over there, right? Because in the first, like a second or even tertiary reason, I chose to go back to that was the fact that I was making this whole thing, this exemplary freestyle based on what the actual artist who did the freestyle and integrated privilege in there, talking about white privilege and all that, with that like self-hating guilt demeanor for, I don't know, brownie points. When he was going through it, what irked me was the fact that he made it racial and everything. So it's like part of me going that way because he was this white ginger dude going down that route of like, hey, black privilege, white privilege, racism, this, that, and the third. I was like, I'll give validity to the argument. I'll make the argument myself, like an honorable mention. Like, yeah, that perspective of the criminal, trying to humanize the criminal of these people. It's like, yeah, from the criminal perspective, you're looking pretty privileged to have the time, know-how, the education and attention to try and educate us for trying to get ahead in life and make so our future generations and our children. It's pretty privileged of you to point out how wrong and bad I am for what I'm doing and how I choose to do it, when you simply can't understand. It's pretty privileged of you to have so much know-how and understanding of how the law works when you never had to break the law to wonder if you'd see the next day. It's pretty privileged of you to preach what is right and wrong to me, who understand the only wrong answer is to give up and quit and be found dead the next day. It's pretty privileged how you're telling me all the right things to do when half those things on that list would still have me looking through some bars, but just of a different kind and shape that are less satisfying. At least knowing that the way I'm doing things, the way I am now, I can look to myself in the mirror and understand I'm pretty privileged to just not be in jail and get away with it. I'd rather be pretty privileged to not be in jail and get away with it. I'd rather be pretty privileged to only get caught my third time, knowing that 3 times out of the 4, my child was able to eat because of what I did to make sure he was guaranteed a meal. I am pretty privileged enough to look in the mirror and understand that I don't regret anything. I am pretty privileged myself to be able to not regret the things I've done in my life and for the reasons I did them. I am pretty privileged and I am happy with that, right? So that was the third step back, step back, step back, step back if you ever had to this, step back if you never had to step back, was the whole emphasis I was putting on that. So after the second step back, step back, step back, I went on that scream of trying to humanize that criminal mentality aspect of like, hey, isn't it pretty privileged? And just let that criminal speak like, hey, you're all looking pretty privileged from where I stand because I'm the furthest back in this room. You're all looking pretty privileged how this and that and this, right? Because one of those things of me pointing the finger earlier in the freestyle was pointing the finger like, oh my gosh, if you ever had to, where I had emphasis on the had, where step back if you had, step up, step forward if you didn't have to, if you didn't have to, step back if you had to, step back if you had to. And for that criminal being that very final time, I wanted to be like, hey, from a few of these perspectives, everyone's not all the way in the far backs. There are some who's far back there, but they're not all the way back. So if anyone tries to point the finger like, hey, my mom's way back there, right? My dad's way back there. My uncle, my brother, my this, that. Like, hey, you over there. You're not any of those people. Why the hell are you? Oh, you're back there because you're a criminal? Goes figure, right? So I tried to do that humaning aspect of, yeah, they suffered, but at the same time, understand why they're suffering. Because it's pretty privileged, right? And if so long as we're doing this blame game, I'm sure someone would point out the criminal like, hey, they're suffering, but it's their own suffering, you know? Right? So before anyone pointed the finger at the criminal aspects who are sitting way back there, I wanted to be like, hey, let the criminal talk for a second. You're all looking pretty privileged. You all looking pretty privileged. You're looking pretty privileged. Just like bring out the rage. But again, I had the music to tempo to cool me down and not get ahead of the of myself, because I like to speak fast when I sing or make my own music. So I'll play music to kind of keep my pace steady, because my cadence and my tempo can fluctuate from me trying to speak as fast as I think the lyrics out. So, anywho's, and I digress. So when I was in there, it was the first piece, what is privilege? The next piece, what examples of privilege are there? Then I got into that scheme of like, okay, I said pretty privileged. I like the feel of that. How about I add that extra letter, make it an ED, past tense, pretty privileged. Ooh, I like that. Gotten to that understanding of I have this pretty privileged rhyme scheme I could use. And from there, I used it like only 2 or 3 times before I got into that pretty privileged, went from pretty privileged into step up, step up, step up. I used it 3-4 times and then went back to the repetitiveness of the pretty privileged talking to. And then I did it again. I went to the rhyme scheme of, hey, step up, if, step up, if, step up, if, step up, if, step up. Oh, you're looking pretty privileged. I bet that's pretty privileged. Bet you're pretty privileged. And then kind of similar scale, but just in reverse. Like step back, step back, step back, step back, step back. Look at this divide here. Isn't it pretty privileged? Pretty privileged, pretty privileged. Step back, step back, step back, step back. And then pretty privileged, how you pretty privileged. And then from there, after I did all those divides, I went along and said like, okay, I did enough dividing today. How about we, before I close this out, how about we just bridge it up a little bit? How about we make a bridge, make it possible to come together? Because I know I separated the divide. And, excuse me, too much soda today, I guess. So, I don't know I know I used at least a good 5 to 7 lines to bridge the divide that I caused by pointing fingers this entire freestyle song. So from there, I know that one like key thing I said in there was along the lines of, how did I say it? What I was saying was that along the lines to bridge this gap was like, hey, I'm pretty sure I used the line like, look around again, because I used that a good 2-3 times through those median aspects of the song. So I was using it again just to shift the conversation. Like, look around. Now notice where everybody's at. Don't focus on where you started. Focus on the goal. And just do that. Just do it. That's why it stuck in my mind. Just do it. So don't focus on where everybody started at. Focus on the goal, because that's where everybody trying to be at. Was like my crescendo of this like bridging toward the end of the song. It's like, don't focus on where you are, focus on the goal, because that's where you're trying to be at. And those two lines weren't actually next to each other. there was like 2-3 lines separating them, a line ahead of that, and a couple of lines after the tail end. So it's like a line, don't focus on where each of us have started. And then I had 2-3 lines before I said focus on where the goal is, because that's where everyone's trying to be at. And then I said another 2-3 lines before closing it off by talking more about the pretty privilege. I went back to that, and in my mind, it just started fading off. But I just kept naming some more stuff. And I definitely repeated a few things because I like to do that for ending fade out ad libs of my songs, just repeat stuff that's already been said. So I'm like, hey, after I said that, ending with the bridge, it just went back to just listing down pretty privileged. I guess it's pretty privileged how you da 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 da. I guess they're pretty privileged how they da 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 da. I bet we pretty privileged how they da 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 da. I bet I'm pretty privileged. Da 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 da. You looking pretty privileged how you da 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 da. Girls out here to just be pretty privileged, showing off the da 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 da. And I just went to that, and in my mind, ending the freestyle like that would make like the perfect fadeaway track. It's like, I guess they pretty privileged. I guess we pretty privileged. I guess they pretty privileged. I guess they pretty privileged. I just made for the perfect fadeaway to go back into the pretty privileged rhyme scheme and just fade it off. Because I remember in that moment when I was creating the freestyle and thinking it up to this random clip of a guy freestyling in his own car, I'm like, perfect. And the moment I said I'm done, the clip restarted, and I got to hear the dudes freestyle all over again, uninterrupted. And I'm like, yeah, I did good. And I thought about it, and I'm like, darn, that would have made for a great video. Even if I fumbled over my words and my lyrics a couple times, I feel like that would have been a viral video right there. Because I did good. I didn't try to over explain each lyric. I didn't try to make it make sense. In some spaces, I screwed up, which just exclusively goes to show that I'm not that kind of artist. Like, I could make a song, I could make a hit, I could make a smooth thing, but no, I don't even like singing my own songs. So me fumbling over my words a couple times, especially on a first take, yeah, that could have totally went viral. That was a good one. So I just knew that right when I finished it and I started looking at the time, dude, that song was pretty much over 7 minutes long. I could have shot a whole video and posted it. So I was like, oh man. But hey, that's just me, your Millennium Mailman. Go ahead, leave a like on the video if you like what I did, like what I said, how I said it, or beyond. Comment down in the comment section down below, or reach me at millenniummailman@gmail.com. I check it once a week. Go ahead, share the video for more exposure to the channel, my content, or just the fact that I'm writing a book series right now called The Realm-of-Millenia. Yes, the name of the channel itself. And subscribe if you feel like it, and don't feel forced to. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, that has been a step up, step back freestyle that I did, or probably what it'll probably be best known for is my privileged freestyle. This has been my recreation of it. Do tell me all about your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, and opinions in the comment section down below. I will be harshly reviewing those like a proper critic of myself, because I am my own worst critic. Don't Don't worry. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in a roadkill shirt. Because my voice sounds like roadkill. I'm going to go back to just singing other people's songs. Because I don't like my own music. I like my own lyricism, but I don't like singing my own songs. But hey, don't ever forget, peace, love, happiness, and all the best of things to you. Because I'm roadkill and nothing good's coming to me. Goodbye.